My name is Stjärnljus, and I'm the creative director, co-head of studio, and co-game director at Wishfully.
Yes, you are. My name is Klas Eriksson, as you can see. And I am also co-director. We direct all our games together, and I'm also the writer and narrative lead at studio.
Yes, and together with our wonderful team at Wishfully, we have created a game series called Planet of Lana. So what is Planet of Lana? Planet of Lana is a cinematic puzzle adventure where you get to experience an emotional sci-fi epic saga through the eyes of a young child and her creature companion.
That's right. And I just want to give some context on the talk today as well. Like, the aim of it isn't to like toot our own horn or anything, but like we just want to give maybe a different perspective on what a studio journey might look like. And so this is our journey, and maybe hopefully some of you might take something from that.
Yes.
It's going to be a bit airy-fairy, but you can live with that. So, on the subject of 2D puzzle platformers, it just so happens that they are among the lowest performing genre on Steam. So why make Planet of Lana? Why start a studio in hard mode? Well, to be honest, for me personally, I actually kind of got duped into it by this dude here, this young, handsome con artist standing next to me. So I'm going to pass it over to him to intro.
Yes. So that's me, and I need to go back. I need to go way back to tell this story. So this is me as a kid, getting myself into all kinds of trouble. And I also had a very good hairdresser back then. But all in all, I was, kind of a good kid, except for when I tried to convince my friends into various creative endeavors. And I grew up in a small town called Kalmar.
Anyone from Kalmar? No.
And it's a small town, and it's basically most famous for having a very long bridge to an actual famous island called Öland. And we also have a very nice castle, which is actually very nice, which I'm reminded of in every text message from my parents when they insist on sending a lot of pictures of it. Yeah.
That's right. And I also happened to grow up in Kalmar right around the same time. And that's me practicing my ninja kicks without a shirt on. And this is, I think I was in 5th grade when I started hearing about this dude in the other class who was really good at drawing. And I fancied myself like, the top artist of the school that we went to. So I didn't like the sound of this young man. And I was having none of it. So, got in touch, and an epic drawing battle ensued between the two of us to varying rates of success, I guess.
Yes.
That's my dad, that last one. Sorry, keep going.
And when I went home to Klas' house, I found out that he had a computer. And he had games on that computer. And I tried my best to convince Klas that it was a great idea for me to try those games. Thoroughly.
Yeah, and on said computer, I also had this classic piece of software that you might have heard of called Photoshop. It's a completely legal copy that I paid for with my weekly allowance. And I don't remember quite how, but like we decided to sort of start playing around with this thing together, and all of a sudden we were working on our first collaborative project together on the computer, and it was this masterpiece here. So some context, this is probably August of 1999, so episode 1 is about to drop in a month, and we were really excited. We thought we'd made something absolutely amazing. And we were waiting for Lucasfilm to call and, buy the thing, but that didn't happen. But a new creative partnership
you could say,
was formed.
Yes. And during our teenage years, we continued doing a lot of creative stuff together, like illustrations. We got into photography, motion graphics, animation, you name it. But it was when we started creating games that it all kind of clicked. We found Flash and Games Workshop and started doing games together. And this was a medium where we got to, or we had to, combine it all, kind of, image, animation, sound, and music, and interactivity, and game design to make good games. And what we didn't realize back then was that we were creating at our top capacity. Not output-wise, but we were creating out of pure joy and passion, where nothing felt like work and we could give 200% every day.
That's right. And then, as it does, after you graduate high school, reality hits. And I think we were both like, working in the games industry didn't feel like very attainable at this time, or like, we didn't even know where to start. It's like there was no real indie scene, at least that we knew about. And like the idea of going to like a big studio or a AAA place just didn't feel attainable at all. So we kind of went our separate ways. I moved to New Zealand to go to film school on the other side of the planet. Adam went to Stockholm to pursue a career in motion graphics and animation. And it wasn't really until 7 years later when we reunited again from opposite ends of the planet back in Stockholm, and we started our film production company, Makers Only, together with Don Faxe, another childhood friend who is today the lead game designer at Wishfully as well. And we had a really good time. Like, we were in our 20s, we were living in Stockholm, 30s? 20s. Late 20s. Yeah. And we were living in Stockholm and like making a lot of fun film projects, and it was a big privilege. And like, a little preface, like, it might seem like it at times during this talk, like, but it's not about shitting on the advertising industry. It's not. But we were making these things for other people. We weren't making them for ourselves,
Yeah. And I mean, we were doing really fun projects. And I remember this one film that I'm showing here, where I got a chance to direct an animated commercial, which was a huge thing for me, that I got to do, like the visual styles, the directing, everything. And I made the pitch, won the pitch, got to go to New York, do a film shoot, did a post-production, spent so much, love and care into this project to make it as good as I could at the time. And I remember, because I was so excited, because it was going to be aired on US television just a few days later. And I got a call from the client where they asked me, or told me, that we need to do the film Pink. And even though, I was used to working with clients, it was such a creative gut punch. And I kind of realized there and then that this was going to be an everyday normality working in this industry. And I mean, we were very privileged to be able to do these fun projects, of course. But when you're putting your kind of heart into creative projects, only to have someone change it all at a whim, when the feeling is that they don't really care. And it makes you it made us cynical, and made us care less about the next project and even less on the next project. And we have tons of stories like this. And we realized that, it made us feel that every day going to work, we kind of felt something like this. And we started re-evaluating what we were doing and why we were doing it. And at this time, I was around 32 years old. I just got my second child. And even though it might not have seemed on paper a good time to jump, I really felt that I had to make the jump and try to make games, which was my biggest passion. So I decided to follow my dream and to make a game. And none of us have any education in video games. We only have those flash games that we did as kids. But with inspiration from those games that we played growing up and contemporary titles like Limbo and Inside, as well as a lot of Studio Ghibli inspiration, especially from Miyazaki and Spirited Away and Ponyo and Totoro on these films. I came up with this idea of this game called Planet of Lana, and I drew this image in Photoshop back in 2017 with this core idea of this puzzle adventure platformer. And it was a total different task of making games, of course, professionally when you're not making flash games. So I didn't know proper programming, so I started with the thing I knew, which was animation. So I'm filming my niece for reference and turning that to frame-by-frame animations of Lana. So the whole idea was to kind of keep this retro feel to it, this handcrafted feel to the game. So yeah, that's what I did. I started working on the game by myself.
Yeah, and back to me, I just at the time had moved to Sydney, Australia, because I fell in love with a girl who came from there. So that's how it happened. And any dads in the audience will get the joke eventually. But yeah, I think it was literally the day after I landed, I got an email from Adam saying, like, he sent me this image and he said, this is something I really, really want to do. Like, do you want to come join? Do you want to write? And he had that tone in his voice that I recognized from, I knew he was serious. And so, of course, I said, yes, let's do it.
Yes, and my wife at the time, Maria, joined in, and we started putting together a team together with Klas. And luckily, there was a lot of talented people that joined in under the course of that year. And at the end of 2018, we formed the studio, Wishfully.
That's right. And as the founders started coming together and the vision started happening, Adam drew a whole bunch more images and I started working on the story, and slowly but surely the story of Lana started coming together. A young girl who sets out on an epic adventure to save her sister who's been abducted by this invading robot army against impossible odds, together with her best friend, Mui.
Yes, and it was a very big, grand vision, and the opposite to all the advice we got to make a small debut game and go out there and collect feedback. We wanted to make our dream game from the get-go. And we decided to build a vertical slice, and we set out a plan to make it during 6 months. And we went to our first game conference to pitch the game to publishers and investors. And everyone liked the vision, the concept art of the game. But the demo we had was this. And it was, as you can see, not up to par with the vision of the game. It felt sluggish with these frame-by-frame animations and the character controller that we used, and it felt very, very flat and very lackluster all around. And on top of that, we also had a very unrealistic production plan. So we were basically slaughtered by publishers on that conference.
So we had no idea what we were doing.
Yeah,
we were just like, look, she's moving.
Yes. That's right.
But yeah, still everywhere we went, people, just like I had, kept responding to that original image of it evokes a lot of questions. This little girl, little cat monkey thing, and that robot. What are they up to? What's going on? And we started publishing the images online, and to try and build a bit of an audience. And the response kept getting good. So we still felt we do have something. We got to keep this thing moving. And one of the people that saw this image was this gentleman here, Takeshi Furukawa, and most of you might know him from scoring the beautiful score of The Last Guardian, among many others, of course. And he actually just reached out of the blue, because on one of the conferences we'd been, there was like some journalist from one of the English papers had been and like sort of said like games from Scandinavia to look out for. And still, it was just the concept art. But he saw the concept art and he got in touch and said, like, do you guys have any? Do you have a composer tied to the project? If not, would you mind if maybe I did it? And we thought it was a prank. Like, we thought someone was taking the absolute piss, and we were just. But then, after a bit of back and forth, we realized that no, it actually was him. And of course, yes, sir, you may.
Yeah, we said yes. And we formed a new plan. And the new plan was to have a realistic plan of making a vertical slice. We decided to make all the characters in 3D, so we could have more responsive controls while keeping the fluid animations. And we also found a way to bring the hand-painted trees and nature from the concept art to life by creating this wind system, which was very important to bring it to life. And bit by bit, we landed in this 2.5D style, where we layered 3D and 2D elements. And we finally found a compelling world that was immersive and that players wanted to be in. So it was starting to come together. But it was also very stressful times, because at this point we had been working over 3 years without any salaries, juggling family life, jobs on the side, with trying to work as much as possible on this game. And we still didn't have any funding.
That's right. And we went to a lot of conferences and trade shows and industry events to just literally with like hundreds of pitches and hundreds of no's. And some of them were kind no's and some of them were not so kind. But it was really, really hard. It sucks to be told no. And we just did it wherever we could, whenever we could, really.
Yes. And in early 2020, we finally managed to finally managed to create a proper vertical slice, where we could show off the vision of what we wanted to create. And when we sent this out, we thought that now we would find a deal and be able to start working on the game. But this was the exact moment when the pandemic hit. We were supposed to go to GDC, and our talks with publishers froze. And as the investment climate kind of thawed, we still realized that we couldn't get the game signed, because we were an inexperienced team. But
everyone believed in the project, but they didn't believe in us.
Yeah.
And fair enough, maybe. I don't know.
And it was kind of through a fluke. I got to know a fellow indie developer on Twitter that gave us a proper contact at Xbox. So we started talking to them, and after long talks and discussions, finally we signed with Xbox and got a deal, not a huge deal, but a small deal, so we could start humble beginnings. But most importantly, we had Xbox believing in the project.
That's right. I remember actually when it happened, I was in Australia and I was like asleep. It was like 4 a.m. or something. You called me up and I was like, I just find the phone. It's like, hello. And you were like, just Xbox said yes. And I'm like, yay. Good work, dude. I'm going back to sleep now. It was a good time.
Yeah, and with Xbox believing in the project, it opened up more discussions, and finally we ended up with a publishing deal with Thunderful. And we're so happy with the partnership that we've had with both Xbox and Thunderful for both these games that we made. And we were so happy because neither of them wanted us to turn our game pink. Because they believed in our creative vision for the game and supported us instead of forcing creative decisions on us.
That's right. And during this time as well, like more and more talented people started joining. Like, look at all these beautiful crew here. And, you know, we could finally start production for real. And we were actually getting paid as well, which was amazing. It makes a huge difference to be able to actually focus on what you're doing. And the game was starting to take shape. Like all these things that we've been working on was starting to come together. Like, you know, the concept art was being translated into the world, and like that fluid animations were coming in, and we found our Lana, our voice, and the music, and basically this wonder of sight and sound appeared.
Now, of course, this wasn't the real actual game, but this was a very valuable prototype that we had when we basically could prototype all the puzzles and test them externally without having our proper programmers have implemented it all in the final game.
Oh yes, this one. So finally, June 15, 2021, we got our moment in the sun. Maybe some people recognize the graphics. Oh, there's a little hashtag up there as well. So context for this clip is like 10 minutes before this, my girlfriend came down the stairs with a positive pregnancy test for my daughter. And I remember, like, it was a very emotional moment in a lot of ways. And it was sort of half like, oh, yay, this is all so exciting. And I'm also shitting myself because this better work out now. But when I heard Uncle Jeff's soothing voice, I instantly felt better.
One of the things I take great pleasure in is using a platform like this show to introduce you to new developers and studios with games that deserve the spotlight. That's definitely the case with this next title from a small Swedish studio named Wishfully. Planet of Lana tells the story of a young girl and her loyal friend who embark on a mission through a colorful world that's designed to feel like a gouache watercolor painting come to life. Here's your first look at the Planet of Lana, coming to Xbox and PC in 2022.
The team really poured their whole heart and soul into that trailer, and we were so happy. And yeah, the response was overwhelming. Wishlist numbers went through the roof. And yeah, we thought we had a good inkling that we did maybe have something special now. And then in August 2022, we actually got to go to a conference, Gamescom, on the other side of the pitching fence. We weren't there hand in hand anymore. And we had our first playable demo, and we got it in the hands of journalists. And it was really nerve-wracking because now it was out there, and like you actually had to see what it, you know, people's reaction to it. And
yeah, for sure. And I remember walking those halls, big halls in Gamescom that I've been walked many times before when we were there pitching the game, and seeing like the Planet of Lana key art printed out on this huge wall and seeing the queue of people lining up to play our game, and to be able to actually talk to players about their experience. It was very, very special.
That's right, and it was a good summer all around, because later on, Takeshi told us, being the perfectionist and artist that he is, that he was like, I think we should record this soundtrack with a full orchestra. So said and done, that's what he did. And so with all this wind in our sail, that was it, No, it wasn't, because now we had to finish the game. There was a lot of pressure. I think we were about...
because now we had hype for the game.
Yeah, we had hype now as well. Now we actually had to deliver a whole game.
And we still didn't knew what we were doing, basically.
Well, we knew a little bit more.
Yeah, a little bit more.
At this point. And at least we had a lot of people, around us that knew what to do. But yeah, we're about 3 months. 3 months to release. Yeah, we did one last round of external playtesting, and this guy came in. I hated him then, but now he's like, the guardian, the protective angel of the studio. But he was very blunt, and he said, I thought the ending sucked. You guys don't have an ending. His exact words were, I'm someone who cries easily in movies and video games, and I felt nothing. And we just
it was harsh.
Yeah, it was really harsh.
And with 3 months left to launch.
Yeah, 3 months left to launch. Yeah, so it was like sort of DEFCON 5.
Assemble the team.
Assemble the team. Assemble. And yeah, we did 2 days of straight meetings and brainstorming and rejig stuff, gameplay-wise, story-wise, and yeah, just got it together.
Yes.
You're never out of the woods.
You're never out of the woods. And these are just, of course, some of the war stories that we had. But yeah, after almost 6 years, we got to release the game in May 2023. And we wanted to show you the release trailer as well. Yes, thank you. So back to the original question of why. Why did we give up the safety of our careers in advertising to make a game in the worst performing genre on Steam, on paper? Well, the short answer is that back when we worked in advertising, every stressful day, we kind of felt like this. But every stressful day working on Planet of Lana, we felt more like this. And because also when we started the studio, there was no other game that we could make as our debut game. We needed to get it out of our system. It was our absolute dream game with inspirations from those old games that inspired us as kids all those years ago. And by staying true to ourselves, we realized also that we created this snowball effect where we attracted so many talented people to the team and studio that also wanted to give their heart and passion to the games. And thanks to the whole team and all the hard work they all did, and we all did, we managed to ship 2 games that we can be really proud of.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Adam and Klas. I don't know about you, but just seeing that video makes me just want to go home and play. I unfortunately have to still be here, or fortunately have to be here, but then I will definitely be playing it again. The floor is open for some questions for about 2 minutes, so if there is any questions, please raise your hand and our wonderful volunteers will come by with a mic. Okay, I think over there.
Hello. I'm intrigued about the sequel. Did you always have the idea of a sequel in mind, or did you only decide to do a sequel after the success of the first one?
No, it was kind of funny because we started working on the first game and it was meant to be a standalone game. But then, as we delved deeper into the story and you started developing the story more, the lore and universe became so big and so rich, basically, that we felt that the story of Lana and Mui was way too big to fit into one game. So around mid-production, we decided that we needed to make a sequel.
And I think curious as well. It was because there is a bit of backstory to it all, and history of this planet, and where did people come from, and where did robots came from, and we had questions that we wanted answering. So I think that was the biggest driver there, really. That it was let's figure this out.
Yeah.
Thank you. I think there's one more question over there. Yes.
Hi. I'm curious if you can elaborate a bit on how you found people to kind of join your team in the early stages and believe in that vision when there wasn't the money around to necessarily pay people yet. How did you find crazy people to join you there?
Yeah, that's a good question. We were fortunate enough to...
Gun.
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
The gun.
I'm sorry?
The gun.
The gun, yeah, exactly, the gun. The gun, and also that we were fortunate enough to, have a creative network of people. But then, as we formed the studio, we also were 9 founders of the studio, and 7 of them that still are active. So that was a way of, incentivizing to work during those tough years.
And the more airy-fairy answer as well, there's that. But then there, really, it was one of my favorite parts of the whole thing is that it was literally that first image that Adam drew that attracted, that's where it started and that's where it kept attracting people. That was enough for me. And then to hear what you wanted to do, as someone who came from the outside, I think that was it for a lot of people.
And a lot of convincing.
And a lot of convincing.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, thank you so much.
Thank
you. Sorry, we went
Fun fact, this is their first Nordic Game Talk, and I think they've done spectacularly, so give it a round of applause for them. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And